Hey, empathic healers, do you have a difficult time communicating your wants and needs? And if so, what gets in your way? The question of the day, our journal prompt to get us started. So, are you ready to dig deeper? Grab your journal and journal with me. Today, we are talking about communication, your truth, and throat chakra energy. I should say this evening in my time zone. Welcome to the Energy Healing Lifestyle Journal Self-Care Challenge Day 26. My name is Robin Knott, and I'm your host of Energy Healing TV and podcast on YouTube, Rumble, and Spotify, and the founder of the EnergyHealingSchool.com. I'm a certified Reiki Master Teacher and have a Master of Social Work degree specializing in mental health and addiction treatment. I'm here to teach fellow empathic healers various energy healing methods with a strong focus on self-care, self-worth, and self-love. Then I'll get tongue-tied without feelings of blame, shame, or guilt. So with all of that being said, back to our journal prompt. If you are ready to journal, do you have a difficult time communicating your wants and needs? So remember, this week we've talked about, even touched on, scratched the surface of wants versus needs. Is there a difference of when you communicate more easily versus when it feels more challenging? Or is it the same? Does it matter for you? So if you are expressing your wants, is that any more challenging than expressing a need? And again, go deeper with that. What gets in your way? So remember also a couple things. Let me review before I get ahead. 3 steps in my process: aware, assess, and align, right? We're doing this journaling process to bring more into our awareness. And then we can assess where we're at and see if we are in alignment with the source of unconditional love. And if not, what is an action step we can take to get into alignment with the source of unconditional love? And sometimes just giving ourselves this space, this time to journal is enough, right? So with that question being asked, what are those challenges, if there are any, in your communication? So there are a few different communication styles. We can communicate assertively when we're able to easily express and ask for the things that we want and that we need. Then we might have some passive or aggressive communication styles. So passive just might be very dropping hints, Maybe if I mention something, someone will offer to help or offer to get me or lead me in this direction of this, my want or my need. And then there's the more aggressive way, trying to demand it, right? Give me, I expect you to, you're going to do this for me, blah, blah, blah. Or bringing on the anger behind it, right? If you experience passive and or aggressive, and sometimes it's a combination of both, what would you say? Do you know why that is, right? What is underneath of that? What makes it challenging to assertively express or ask for your wants or needs to be met? Some of the things that came up in the journaling process to discuss or to review on that could be, do we feel like we deserve what we're asking for, or whatever that need is? Are we prioritizing, right? So maybe others around us, are we kind of saying, well, maybe their needs are more important than my needs, or their wants are more important than my needs? Do you have that battle within your mind and try to determine, like, where on the priority list do my needs or my wants fit in? Another could be responsibility, right? Well, it's my responsibility, so then I don't want to have to ask somebody else. Or fear of rejection. What if I ask and they say no? I don't like that feeling, so I don't want to deal with that rejection or disappointment. Sometimes we ask and then someone says yes, and then there's no follow through, right? So then there's that disappointment, and then we can backtrack to our previous days when we talked about, like yesterday, starting to feel that resentment, right? Or anger because there's that disappointment or the need wasn't met. And then how do you follow up your communication style when that happens, right? So maybe you start off assertively asking to have your wants and needs met. And then when that disappointment comes in, do we stay assertive in that communication? Do we then get passive or aggressive? You said, right? You said you would. And responsibility and accountability. So whose responsibility is it to help us meet our needs? Like, or is it just up to us to maintain it on our own? And I question that too, because depends on what it is, right? Yes, we have responsibility and accountability for ourselves. However, we are a collective and we tend to lean on each other for help when we need it, right? It's part of our human relationships. Expectations can be another thing, can't it? So setting those expectations on ourselves, excuse me, especially when things come up when we're unable. So I'm readjusting. Sit on the bed tonight. Um, if something comes up that gets in our way of meeting our needs ourselves, excuse me, to when we have to then reach out for help. Listening is another part of our communication. Let me get a drink of water. Yeah, now scratchy. Listening is another part of our communication, right? So, do we listen to ourselves? Excuse me. Are we listening to our mind, body, and soul? So, is our body telling us that we need something? Is it, when I think of the mind and emotions, right? I'm tying those together for this purpose. Where is our mindset? What are we thinking and considering, and how are we feeling about it, right? So, example, need versus want. We need to eat, right? Ideally, we would be able to eat clean, meaning foods that aren't full of different types of poisons, basically. Um, so I was thinking about greenhouses today, so that kind of brought up this idea or this thought. So as I'm looking at these greenhouses and I'm doing my little bit of research, which kind of brought me late online tonight, I would have that desire so much for it, right? It's like, oh, I got to have this. I need this. Do I need it? No, but I really want it. And how can it be beneficial, right? So then we're prioritizing and we're listening to ourselves because our body wants clean food. Our body wants clean food year round. Well, I live in Ohio where the winters aren't always grow friendly, if you will. So, how our minds can start to shift and ponder and put these pieces together to determine if it's something as a want or a need or how beneficial it is and how we prioritize it. But what are we listening to? I can listen to my mind in this way of processing and justifying a situation. And I can also listen to all the reasons why I shouldn't or I can't yet or blah, 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 right? The money, and then how do you keep it warm and all the pieces that are involved. There's a lot of pieces involved in a greenhouse, right? Especially if you want to grow like in the wintertime, depending on what you want to grow. And then there could be a deterrence in that. So, how do you listen to yourself is the main point. And then, how do you listen to others as well? So, if and when we ask to have a need met, how others respond. Do we hear it all the way through? Do we listen to all the pieces, or do we reactively listen and only listen to those pieces that might sound discouraging? Because sometimes the human brain just wants to focus on that negative stuff, right? We might hear 10 positive things, one negative, and boom, we just focus on the negative, totally dismiss all the positive. So, do we hear everything out? And do we hear other people out when they ask us to, right? So, thinking of that inflow and outflow, sometimes things are presented in our world or in our lifetime, in our situations, to show us reflections of ourselves, right? So when we are sharing with other people and we feel unheard, have there been times when we might have done the same? Have there been times when people have asked us for a want or a need that we responded in a way that shut them down? or that we agreed to something and then didn't follow through, right? Were we the ones who presented with their disappointments? Always lessons to be learned. So that's lots to journal on, right? We start with one journal prompt and then we take it to many, many other questions. However, again, it's what helps bring about and increases our self-awareness. It's not about blame, shame, and guilt. So when you are met with those moments where you're like, oh, I did that. Oh, I really shut people down. Or, someone asked me or shared with me what their need was, and then I just came back with mine. Didn't hear them all the way through, or again, agreed to offer help and then didn't follow through with that. Whatever comes up into your awareness, whether it's with other people, for yourself, remember energy flows up and down and around. So even though today we're focused on the throat chakra energy and our communication styles, remember again, it flows. So go back to the heart space where we have that space of transformation. And that transformation occurs through forgiveness, right? So as these things come up in our journal, again, whether it's someone else let us down or we realize moments where we let other people down, bring it back to the heart space to allow that forgiveness to occur. In addition to the journaling for our awareness, that is a big action step that we can take to get into alignment with the source of unconditional love, right? It's a way that we can clear out that old, stuck, negative, icky, gross energy so that we can create space for the lighter, positive, more loving energy to occur, right? To come in and then share more of. So that was kind of big, I think. Tell me what you guys think. What are your communication styles? I'm just going to check my journal, make sure I covered everything for this evening for today. What are your communication styles? Assertive, passive, or aggressive? And that includes and incorporates your listening styles. So what are your listening styles? Do you listen actively to yourself as well as others, or reactively? And in that reactively, I was just thinking of like for self and others, sometimes we don't listen, right? We just flat shut it down, close it off, tune it. Talk about kids, how they'll tune you down or tune you out. Do we do that? Do you do that too? Do you tune yourself out sometimes? Do you tune out guidance sometimes? Like when God speaks to you, or the universe speaks to you, whatever name you use, do you sometimes tune that out? Or you're like, no, no, not hearing it, not listening it. Or I can't do that, right? All that mental ego chatter starts. It ties in with listening to your body and your mind and your soul as well, right? So when you feel that offness in your energy, when you feel the tension in your shoulders or your neck or the upset stomach or the headache or whatever, symptoms, if you will, that your body is presenting, or again, the mind, you could think of things like even depression, or if we're getting anxious and we're overthinking and we're over trying to make things perfect, right? How the mind is reacting in certain situations. Is it trying to justify or minimize or magnify all those thought patterns that can come into play? Are you aware of those, being that observer, which we'll talk about a little bit more, right, as we go up into the third eye chakra, being the observer of this process? But are you aware then of what is your response when you recognize it? What is your response when it comes into your awareness that you have a need or you have a want and now you need to ask for help, right? Because if we can meet it on our own, we oftentimes just do that. We don't even have a conversation about it. We just take care of it. But when you need help with that, when you need help getting your needs met, you need help fulfilling a want, a big desire, how do you then express that? Or do you? Do you shove it down and dismiss it? Do you deny yourself? Communication is huge, including our own, right? So our own self-talk. What are you saying to you when you're like, oh, I need to ask for help? What do you say to you? And how do you say it? Do you speak to yourself assertively, aggressively, or passively? If you're comfortable, drop it in the comments and let me know. I'm sure you're not alone. Just saying. So our homework is that. Our homework is to continue to check in with yourself, right? Continue to journal on your process. Remember the journaling and start with the journal prompt. Ask yourself the question, that communication. Ask yourself the question and just listen and start writing down whatever comes to mind. Again, it doesn't even matter if it seems off the wall or doesn't seem on point or has nothing to do with the journal prompt. Write it down anyways, because as you continue and you reflect on that journal, you'll start to see how the patterns, your thought patterns in your mind and how things are working. Maybe these are avoidance techniques that you've used and weren't aware of, and they're going to start presenting themselves in your journal by what you're writing coming to mind as a response to the question, right? Continue to increase your self-awareness. Continue to then assess it, because we're not beating ourselves up with it, right? We're bringing it into our awareness to make a decision. Is this in alignment with the source of unconditional love? If it is, fantastic. We can have all the gratitude in the world for that. If it is not, then what is one step we can take to shift that energy, to clear that out, to then move towards the energy of the source of unconditional love, right? And if you're not sure sometimes what that action step is, it's just this. It's being present in the moment. It's taking the time for you to get to know you, to honor how you feel, right? Feel it to heal it, holding that space without judgment, without blame, shame, and guilt. Hear that twice if you need to. Rewind that part and listen to it again if you need to. Also, if you have not already signed up for the Empathic Healers Masterclass, a step-by-step guide to set boundaries and protect your energy, the link is in the description. You are still able to do that. And as always, meet me back here tomorrow and we will talk about acceptance, observer mode, and third eye chakra. Thank you for all who have hopped on to the live and back for the replay. Take good care of you. So much love. Bye, guys.